Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Capitalize on Retirement. Today, as we enter 2026, we wanted to talk about three financial decisions that decide or guide your financial freedom into 2026. So I think the first topic, and you get jumping into it, or you got anything you want to add there?
Yeah, no. The first topic today, we're going to talk taxes, one of our favorite topics.
Yep.
I think, a lot of people get caught up in how much should I save for retirement, but we also think that you should be looking at which accounts am I saving into,
Yep.
right? Because there's obviously different tax impacts for all of those accounts. And so, basically where you can save your money, there's typically three different buckets. And so we have our taxable bucket, our tax deferred, and our tax-free bucket. And so, sometimes when we look at these buckets, we call these, the taxable bucket would be the taxed sometimes bucket.
Yep.
Because the taxable bucket, think of things like brokerage accounts, anything that you get at 1099 or you earn interest on that account or you have some capital gains. So that would be a taxable account. Then we have our tax deferred accounts, which are IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, and that's where we're deferring that tax bill. So we put money in now, we get a tax deduction on the front end, and then that money grows to tax deferred, and then when we take that money out, that's when we pay the tax bill.
Yep.
And the final bucket's going to be our tax-free bucket. Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, and so that account is very powerful because we pay tax to get the money there, but then it's tax-free moving forward. So if you want to kind of expand on some of those buckets and some of the benefits.
No, I think it's important to note that, obviously we have to save money to develop financial freedom, but it does matter where that money is and where it's located. And if you think about the taxable bucket, that bucket's nice because we get flexibility in it, we get access on it, we're paying capital gains tax rates of 0, 15, or 20, depending on what our other income looks like, but it's more tax favorable than, say, you're in retirement, you're taking distributions from your IRA or that tax deferred. I think the main thing that we see that we deal with often is, use an analogy, right? You have a big water bottle there. For most Americans, that's going to be their tax deferred bucket. Most of the time, it's like a bucket, like the Home Depot bucket, right? And then we have our taxable account, which is going to look more like this coffee cup that I have here, right? Most of our money's in that tax deferred. Then we got our taxable account. It's a little smaller. Sometimes it's larger depending on your income and your situation. We see some very large taxable accounts as well. But then we have our tax-free account. Yeah. We don't have one on here, but that's going to be that little shot glass that people will be doing on New Year's Eve. And that's the smallest account that we have. But the Roth is the tax-free account. So when we're in retirement, that is our most beneficial account in the tax code.
Yeah, definitely.
So, part of our strategy is working money toward there. So when you're saving, and saving absolutely matters, but when we're saving, we want to make sure we are saving and know how that money will be taxed to us on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, we're not sitting here telling you, hey, you should be saving all of your money into one of these buckets. We're just saying it really depends on your situation. And so, what we see is a lot of people put a ton of money into their 401ks.
Yep.
But then they get to the point where they have enough money saved, but they're 53 years old.
Yep.
And so you technically can't touch that money until 59 and a half. Maybe if in a 401k, sometimes you could access it a little bit early at age 55, depending on the plan. But if you have enough money saved and you're saving in those accounts so one day you don't have to work, but all of your money's tied up because you can't really access it, well, that doesn't seem like the best account at that point.
Nope.
So maybe having some money in taxable accounts where you can access it at any time, right, pre-retirement age or pre-59 and a half, it's a beneficial thing. And tax-free, that's the account that you can put your money into because your money is tax-free moving forward.
And you got to deal with a little bit of pain to get your money in those accounts because you're paying taxes today rather than deferring it later. But we always say, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or on the harvest? Because money in the market compounding over time is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. So you save money on taxes now, then you pay it back later, your family does. We're not telling you which way is right or which way is wrong. We don't know your situation.
Yeah.
But I think it's clear that you have to understand how these accounts work so that you could accomplish your goals. And taxes are most Americans who's been a good saver. It's their largest lifetime expense.
Yep.
Most people don't realize that. They don't.
No.
They don't kind of conceptualize it that way. You know, that same $1 can be very different depending on what account it is.
Yeah. And I just think planning, you have to have all three buckets,
Yeah.
right? Like when we work with a lot of our clients or a lot of the families that we work with that are retired, have access to all three buckets.
Yep.
And then you have access, right? You can do different planning strategies. You can do Roth conversions. You can live on some of the taxable account and keep your income low. So there's a lot of different things that you could do there. And I just think you have to have all three.
And that is the beneficial of what we bring to the table, our CPAs. Like I had a family, they're doing a big home renovation, right? And it's going to cost some money, big expense, but by using a big portion of their taxable account and some of their IRAs, we were able to get that money out at a really favorable tax rate.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you don't understand how those things work and you just take it out of one account or this account, whatever it is, you could really cause yourself some problems down the road. So, I mean, understanding how they work and how they also impact your situation is huge.
Yeah, and I just want to hit on, who it might make sense for saving into these accounts. So I think everybody should have a mixture of all three. But sometimes people will ask us, well, should I save into my pre-tax, my Roth, or my taxable account? And so maybe let's just dive into, well, who does it make sense for? Well, if you're putting money into tax deferred, you're basically saying, I need the tax deduction now, and I will pay it down the road. That may make sense if you're 1 or 2 years away from retiring and your income's going to go from $500,000 down to $100,000.
Yep.
Well, maybe you do want to defer that tax bill, right? Now, with that being said, you have to know your other assets and what you have going on.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, sometimes we're having people in high tax brackets contribute to Roth just because, it's tax diversification, right?
Really
we don't
depends,
want all of our eggs in one basket. So it's very situational. I mean, if you're younger and you're in the 22 or 24% tax bracket, my personal opinion is Roth all day long.
Absolutely.
Pay the taxes now, let it grow tax-free forever. And that's because of all the tax planning that we do is we see these people who've accumulated a lot in IRAs. We're helping them unwind that.
Yeah.
Well, you could kind of manage that on the front end too.
Yeah, and I look at one of our clients, they're in that similar situation. They're in the 22% tax bracket. They're married. And they maxed out their Roth 401k this year. That's $23,500 in 2025.
Yep.
And in 2026, they could put $24,500 in.
Yep.
And so they're getting that much money tax-free into their account. They have no idea what that's going to be worth 20 years from now. And nobody really does. But if the market does what it has done for the past, so many years, they might have a lot more money down the road.
Yeah. And all that money, all that growth is tax-free. I mean, I think it's huge. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep after taxes.
Yeah. And then the final one is just the taxable bucket. So there's flexibility with that bucket, and you have access to it at any point.
Yep.
So I like it because you could do a lot of things with it. You could use it pre 59.5. So if I'm going to retire early and I want to access that money, I can use it at any time.
Yep.
I could borrow from that money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different options that you have there.
Yeah, I mean, taxable bucket gives you a ton of. It just gives you a lot of flexibility. It gives you a better tax rate than your IRAs. It's not better than Roth, but you get a better tax rate. You only pay tax on the growth in the account, but through tax loss harvesting, and I know we're not getting into that, but through some of the situations that we use, and you might not even have tax bills on those accounts, depending.
Definitely. So I think, maybe for most people it's, well, what should I be saving into? And once you've maxed out the tax deferred, maybe you've maxed out the tax free, you start looking at that taxable bucket. I really think that is a good bucket to kind of put extra money that you have into.
No, I agree. And I think even before we get to that, there is one other thing that I do want to address. I think some people know about it, some don't, but a backdoor Roth IRA. Yeah. So a lot of people think, well, we hear it all the time, my income's too high to contribute to a Roth.
Right.
Well, In a 401k, there are no limits on Roth contributions. There's no income limits.
Right. Anybody can put money into a Roth
Anybody
401k
can.
if the option's available at work. At their work.
If the employer has the option
Right.
available, but then anybody can do a backdoor Roth. Well, shouldn't say that. Depends on your situation, but backdoor Roth IRA is a very powerful tool.
Yep.
That can be utilized if you don't have IRAs or different. There's a lot of loopholes and things like that, but that's a powerful tool that is probably underutilized.
Definitely. Yeah, and I know some people, actually, a lot of people ask us this. If you have an outside IRA, it makes it harder to do a backdoor Roth because all that money gets basically put together. It's looked at as one. And it's like, I love this analogy. It says when you put creamer in coffee, you can't, you lose the color of it. You can't undo
You can't undo that.
So, I give that analogy all the time. If you do have outside IRAs, doing a backdoor Roth IRA gets a little more tricky, and you just got to know the what's involved with it, I guess. So,
but it's a very powerful tool.
Very powerful, yeah.
Let's talk about, that was number one, and we love talking about taxes. We could go on with that all day long. Plus, it's, one of the biggest needle movers.
Yeah.
But number two is, what are people actually saving for? Like, why would we take money out of our lifestyle today? We always call it, pay yourself first. We did an episode with Paul on this. But what are you saving for? You're saving for financial freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think about this all the time because we have, a lot of clients who are to the point where maybe they do have enough saved, but they just continue working, chasing more money. And I guess I understand because they've always been great savers and that's what they're used to. But I want to make it known that really the whole goal of saving is to get to the point where you have financial freedom. Like if you love going to work and you love your job and that fulfills you, then that's great. But maybe you're using your job as, how do I get to the point where I have financial freedom so that if I want to go to work, I can. If I don't want to go to work, I don't have to. And so I think that's, very important that people understand that, because when they understand that, then you could plan around that. If I know I need $80,000 a year or $100,000 a year to satisfy all of my expenses, well, I know how much money I need to get saved to satisfy that.
Yep. And then depending on when you want to retire and things like that with Social Security optimization, I mean, I think financial freedom it's going to give you control over your time. To get that, you do have to have a plan in place, because it's not just some magic number. Like I remember Voya did a commercial years ago.
Yeah.
What's your number?
Yeah.
Right. And to us, like, it's not about how much you have saved.
Right.
It's how much do you need?
Exactly.
What is coming in? How much you have saved matters, because it's how much can that generate for you so you can maintain that lifestyle. And it's we talk about this often. Your lifestyle is going to change when you retire.
Yeah.
Right. First thing we got to build is that work optional. You have to have a plan in place. Work with an advisor who can build you a retirement income plan, maximize your Social Security, and if you're retiring at 55, that's okay too. Make sure you know how the money's going to come out. But I think it's important that you have that plan in place, and it's also important that you understand that expenses are likely going to go up.
Yeah.
Because every day is a Saturday. I know, coming off a holiday week, and they're expensive weeks when you're off.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens. That's okay.
Yeah.
You've worked for that. That's freedom.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think, like, if you know how much you need in terms of what are my expenses, you know how much you need to save. And one of the things that I always look at is I don't want to just save without a goal in mind. Like, you have to have an end goal in mind, because then you're just saving and it feels like you're constantly spinning your wheels, and it could lead to burnout, or it's just emotionally it's not fulfilling. But if you know that every time you put money away, every paycheck, that it's going towards something that's eventually going to give you that financial freedom, I think that's what you should be looking at.
Yeah, it adds discipline, right? Like,
Definitely.
I think it's kind of sad though. We've seen it countless times where people walk in, and one of the questions we asked in our first meeting is, when would you like to retire? Well, I would like to retire now.
Yeah.
And then we kind of move on from there, and we get into our second meeting, more of the planning side, and we're going through the numbers. It's like, you could have retired 3, 4, 5 years ago. And they had no idea because they're just trying to accumulate this large nest egg. And that's great.
Yeah.
But
that's what they should be doing. But
yeah.
if you don't know what the end goal is or what you're trying to hit, it's like, well, maybe you hit it a long time ago. And
Yeah.
you don't actually have to spend 2 or 3 more years working. You're already in good shape.
Yep, it happens all the time because so many people I'll retire at my full Social Security age, and it's like that's great, but you could have retired 4 years ago,
Right?
And I think
what
more
could you
people
do with those 4 years?
Yeah, what could you do with that? Like, I think more people having that type of planning and being involved in that and knowing that they could retire, because sometimes it's a sign of relief when we tell them that, but it's also a sign of like, I kind of wish I knew that too.
Yeah. I mean, and just like on that topic, I think a call to action would be know what the end goal is. Like, do you have short-term and long-term goals? Do you know kind of what you're actually saving for? Or are you just every paycheck putting money away because that's what everybody tells you to do? So I think for anybody listening, I think the number one thing would be know why you're saving, know what you're saving for, and know what the end goal is.
Couldn't agree more. Money is a tool. Freedom and purpose is the goal, right? Like, money's the tool that we get to give ourselves the freedom that we want, that we desire, and also that purpose, whether it's leaving a legacy to our family, whether it's charitable goals, whatever it is. But money's just there to help us, and we need to be saving. But I think it's important to have that plan in place so we can do things maybe sooner than we originally thought, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so, first topic, taxes. Second topic is just talking about financial freedom. And I think the third thing for 2026 going into the year would be, what can we automate? Because, for me at least, I know, like, I don't do real well when it's just, you got to stay motivated, right? Me and you are very similar when it's, hey, we build discipline around these things because we don't want to rely on motivation.
Yep.
Motivation only lasts so long. So I know a lot of people are going to go into 2026, and if you go to the gym, you're going to see a ton of people going into the gym early on in the year, and then they fall off. And it's the same with money decisions. And so people start out putting money away, sacrificing early on, but then they fall off because there's all new things coming up throughout the year. So let's talk about some of the things that we could automate for 2026.
Yeah, and we'll break it down on if you're working or if you're retired. So we'll kind of start with working. One of the first things that we could automate if we're working is our retirement contributions.
Yep.
Right? We want to get as close to that maximum amount as we possibly can if we could hit that max. And if we can't do that, we want to take advantage of our employer match. Most employers have matching programs in place. If it's 3%, 6%, we want to make sure, because that is essentially free money, right? If I put in 3% and they match me 3%, I'm getting free money. Or if I put in 3 and they match me 6, well, they're only putting in what I put in.
Right.
So we're losing money there. I mean, that's an instant return on your investment. You make sure you're taking advantage of that. That is huge. I think the other one, and this one's a big one to me, emergency funds.
Yeah.
Right? Most of the investors
Yep.
that we see, they have cash on the sideline.
Absolutely.
And by having that cash on the sideline, it allows you to be a better investor, because I have cash on the sideline personally because it makes me a better investor.
You're not as emotional. You have money available when things go bad.
Correct. And I think that's so important. And I think that's important whether you're working or retired, but probably more so. Well, I think it would be the same either way, because if the market gets ugly and you have cash, well, you could always put it in.
Right.
Right. If you have a shock expense and the market's down, you don't want to take money out of the market. That's what cash is for.
Yeah.
And especially through good markets, everybody wants to be all in all the time. And I mean, I like that. We're aggressive too. Like, we get it, but you have to have cash on the sidelines because it makes you a better investor.
Definitely. I mean, I think with that being said, if you think about an emergency fund, it's used for an emergency, but it's also, I think sometimes, like, it's contradictory coming from us because we're financial advisors, and so most advisors want you to invest every single dollar that you have.
Yep.
right? And that's great. And some of our clients want to invest every single dollar that they have. But we have to remind them that having an emergency fund and having cash on the sidelines is actually a good thing.
Yep.
It's not going to be your best performer, but you're not using it to be your best performer. It's
Yep.
used for other purposes.
Yep.
And it does. It helps you be a better investor on the back end.
And it helps us, even from a planning perspective. Like, if we're doing a Roth conversion or we're doing
Yeah.
things, they have money to help cover the taxes, so we get more
Right.
money to the Roth.
Yeah.
That's what your cash is intended for. And we're not telling you need to keep 50% of your net worth in
No.
cash. I mean, it shouldn't even be 10%, but 2 to 5%, things like that, depending on the situation. Like, it's nice to have a
Yeah.
cash buffer.
Definitely. Yeah, and we get questions all the time on how much should I keep in cash in my emergency fund. And, I think it's different for every person. It depends on the situation. But I like anywhere from like 6 months to a year's worth of expenses. I like to have a little bit more cash on the sideline because, once again, if the market goes down, you always have the ability to dollar cost average in.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic. I think that's an underutilized tool.
Yeah.
Being all in all the time. When the market's running good and we don't have these shock expenses that we hold the cash for, that's great. But I think, I think there's a good balance. Like you said, there's not really a general rule of thumb there. People ask us
Right.
that all the time. That is very situational to your
Yeah.
needs and things like that. Like if you're a real estate investor, things like that, you would want more cash than
Yeah.
me and you were gonna have. It's just different.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so retirement contributions, and you can increase those with a 401k now. It's 23. It was 23,500 in 2025. That's the max if you're under age 50, and it's going up to 24,500 if you're for 2026. And then there's also those catch-up contributions.
Yep.
So, and a lot of those will have to go into Roth if you're over certain income limits. So you
Yep.
want to look out for that. But on top of that, I would say investment contributions just into those taxable accounts or whatever accounts outside of work should be automated as well.
Yeah. I mean, I know I do this myself. I put the money in my 401k and then I invest in my brokerage account every single month. It's automatic. It comes out every month. And you mentioned this. We talked about discipline earlier. 2 years ago, I was doing the same thing, but every month I would change it.
Yeah.
And then I would forget about it, right? We get busy and I just wouldn't do it. But I tell people to automate it. I'm like, I don't know why I'm not. Now I automated it. I haven't missed a contribution since I've done that. I have money going in every month. And then, if I want to put extra in, I do that. But I think it just almost needs to be automated or else you'll forget about it. Or you'll spend the money.
Something always comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the final one would just be extra payments toward high interest debt. I'm one of those people that I don't really love debt, but good debt and bad debt are very different. So if you do have some credit cards, after the holiday season and you really want to make sure you're paying those off, pay off those ones that have the highest debt, highest interest first, and just make sure that you're getting those paid for. Because I can't tell you how many times we see somebody who has a credit card and they're paying interest on it at 28%.
Yep.
And it's like 28%. You'd be better off just paying that off before you even invest.
I mean, realistically, you would because it's hard to get 28% in the market. I mean, the market's been really good over the last couple of years, but that's not average rate of
year
return.
over year. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, you probably should. I mean, I think the thing that bothers me is people get aggressive in paying off debt. Let the other side. If your debt is high interest, 6, 7, or above, we really need to talk about that. But if you have a mortgage like the COVID rates, 2-3%, you likely will do better than that, a lot better than that in the stock market. So at that point, it's like, let's push that mortgage off as long as we can.
Definitely.
And allow our money to grow. So debt is a tricky one, very unique based on the interest rate.
Yeah, so just kind of, if you're still working, I think those are things that you should automate for 2026 and just be disciplined about it. Nobody has the motivation month over month over month to continually go in and just save. So I think automating some of those things really sets you up for success. Those have been some of our best investors over time, the ones that have just automated it.
And it's 2026. There's kind of no reason not to.
Yeah. And if you're retired, I think just looking at, well, how much income do I need? Should I set up monthly distributions for my income purposes? And just making sure you're withholding enough tax, right? You don't want to pay penalties on these accounts where you don't have to if you have the right tax plan in place.
Yeah, I think just like you said, having a tax plan in place, knowing what your effective tax rate's going to be, how much should you be withholding, and then kind of what your threshold is, right? Like we want to make sure you're not getting a penalty, but we don't want to give the government an interest-free
Right.
loan,
Yeah.
right? So it's just understanding. We do it. We build a baseline for
Right.
our retirees, so we know where they're going to be at within
Yeah.
a couple bucks in range there, but it really helps them because they know, and then that helps us as we go further with that tax planning side.
Yeah.
So you want that automated. You don't want to have to think, oh, well, this one I did 5%, so the next one I have to do 20, and
Yeah, definitely. So I think just to kind of wrap that part of it up, it's important that you automate it. Don't rely on motivation, right?
Agreed.
Because motivation doesn't last all year, just like the gym motivation doesn't last all year.
Yep.
So just kind of wrapping up all three, I think it's very important that you start looking at taxes, right? A lot of advisors stay away from taxes, and it drives me crazy because I think this is one of the most important things that you should be looking at along with your investment strategies. So I think that's first. Look at your taxes. Am I saving into the right buckets? And am I making the right tax decisions at this point in my life? The second one would be, what are you really saving for, right? You obviously want financial freedom. What do I need to save and invest to get to financial freedom? Because we all have that number in our minds, and we got to know what that is before, so that we can create a plan to get to it. And then the final one would just be automate, right?
Yeah.
We got to automate things. It just makes your life so much easier when you automate things.
No, I couldn't agree. I mean, we think these are three, and none of these are extremely challenging, right?
No.
Like a lot of this stuff can be found, but these are just things that, we really wanted to talk to the people about today because we do this every day. We understand everybody doesn't, and people lack in these areas. Like the tax one, that's the biggest one that our industry, I feel like, has almost let people down on. We've been so historically prone to talk about the stocks, the bonds, the mutual funds, where taxes really matter.
Yeah.
Saving with a goal in mind and knowing how we're going to use our funds and when we can retire. Like these are big things that our industry traditionally doesn't really, most advisors don't talk about that.
Yeah.
I don't mean to,
It's
talk
the truth.
poorly. It's just the truth. It is what it is.
And like the reason that we really love coordinating with our CPAs is because they understand both sides.
Yep.
Like CPAs in the past, and some of the ones that I've listened to have just said, hey, put your money into tax deferred so that you could save the tax bill today and pay it down the road. Well, what we're seeing is our clients have been really good savers.
Yeah, they've done too much of that.
Yeah, they've done too much of that, and now they actually have a tax problem.
Yep.
And so we're helping them go from tax deferred to tax free or taxable to tax free, and I think that's just very important.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have a good CPA who understands both sides of the game because there's the preparation side, which is where 95% of that world lives, right? It's here's all the documents that I've had. Here's all my 1099s. Here's my W-2, right? Here's all these documents, and they're sending that off to the IRS. This is what you owe, or this is what your refund is, and that's great. That's valuable. We all need that.
Yeah.
But then there's that small subset of people who actually do the planning side with a forward-looking approach, and that definitely starts at the advisor level. But you need the CPAs involved in there because they see things differently than we do. So kind of having that team approach is important.
Yeah, so 2026 isn't about doing more. It's about setting things up once and letting them work for you. And unlike people going to the gym and getting motivated early on in the year, I hope that our listeners will actually take some of this advice and stick with it throughout the year and try to automate some of the things that they can.
Yeah, we're excited for another year, and hopefully we're providing value out there.